Another defeat for Spurs yesterday. Look, it's a painful one. It was really tough to take, and I thought we played really well. I think there were a lot of positives to take from yesterday, and we're going to kind of go through that in this video. Look, it's so hard to analyse Spurs properly right now because of where we're at. I don't think any manager would be able to get more kind of out of this squad, and I think it's really hard to get a grasp of how good or bad Spurs are right now, and I think we showed a really good account of ourselves yesterday against Newcastle. If you are new to the channel, please make sure to subscribe. Thank you very much for 8,000 subscribers. We're well on the road to 10k now, so get involved in the comments. Make sure to like the video and subscribe as well if you are new, and we're going to have a chat about the game that started off so well for Spurs. It started off really well, and Lucas Bergvall, I think, was probably, well, there was a lot of bright moments yesterday, or a lot of positives to take, and I think Lucas Bergvall was arguably the main one, and the kind of tenacity and hunger and drive that he showed for that first goal to get us up the pitch. Picks the ball up here, creates that separation from Joelinton, and look, he was up against a really, really tough midfield yesterday when you look at that. We spoke about the midfield before the game, but Guimaraes, Joelinton and Tonali is one of the most kind of versatile, robust, strong midfields that you can kind of come up against, really. So it was a really difficult task. And look, I don't think the midfield balance maybe of Sarr and Bergvall worked too well in that first half, but Bergvall individually I thought was good. I thought Sarr individually was, was decent, but I think it looked a lot more structured and balanced when Basuma came on, Maddison came on, etc. And obviously we'll talk about the Bergvall substitution, but he was brilliant individually, and I thought he did really well against those players. Drove away from Joelinton here, and this is just a brilliant goal. Sets it back for Brennan Johnson. And it's a lovely first-time cross from Porro. Look at that kind of movement from Solanke already. And look, he started to score a lot more kind of classic centre-forward goals recently, and I think that's 7 goals and 3 assists for him now in the Premier League. 10 goal involvements. I thought his all-round game was excellent again yesterday. And, if he gets injured, we are in trouble. And look, we are looking at strikers, wingers. Kolo Muani is a name that's kind of been mentioned quite a lot, as I'm sure you guys probably would have seen. And I think he needs some help, and we'll talk about that if anything does materialise with that transfer, as we will with any transfer. And there will be a video tomorrow on Antonin Kinski, our new goalkeeper that we have signed. There'll be a video about him coming tomorrow. Then they equalised. And look, I was at the game, obviously, but watching the kind of commentary back, watching the game back, it was like, that is classic Tottenham, all those kind of things. And yes, it is in a way. But I'm still not happy about it. I'm not happy about this. Like, I get it. Look, the rules are the rules, and Joelinton, the ridiculous thing is with the rules, and they kind of tie themselves up in knots with these kind of things. If Joelinton went on to score the goal, the goal would be disallowed, accidental handball or not. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. And look, there's not much Joelinton can do about it. There's not much the referee, who I thought at the time was Michael Oliver. I think it was Andy Madley or Darren Madley. I don't know. But basically, so I made a video on TikTok yesterday kind of going on about Michael Oliver, because I was at the game, and when you don't see a bald ref, you kind of just presume it's him. That's what I do anyway. But it wasn't Michael Oliver. It was Madley. And look, he's got a good view of it. He obviously thinks that it's like down by his side and there's not much he can do. And I get that, but it's a handball that's hit him on the palm of the hand that's led directly to a goal. And I think the Spurs players were furious, and kind of rightly so, and they turn it over and they score. And you could tell by the reaction of the players what they thought straight away. Look, it's an unfortunate one. I think we've just got really unlucky. Like, by the rules, I think it's the right decision, but I just think the rules are a massive problem with this, and I don't understand how that can be given as a goal. I just don't get it. Obviously, like I said, I get it with the rules, but the rules were a big problem, and I just think that has to be disallowed. Like, it just has to be. There were some bonkers decisions in the Premier League yesterday all round, and I think we probably had, again, it's hard to say the worst one because it's technically the right decision, but it was absolutely bonkers. And again, this was my problem with the refereeing yesterday. And again, it's hard to tactically analyse this game too much, so we're kind of going to go through the key moments. And I'm sorry if it's not kind of the breakdown you maybe expected or wanted, but I think it is really hard to do that right now with the players that we have got available. It's such a mishmash in terms of the structure in the system, in terms of players playing in different positions. Especially, look, I made my preview on Friday before the news of the kind of illness bug and the injury or the illness crisis kind of came out. And I kind of tried my best to do a tactical preview then, but it's hard with the squad that we've got right now. It is really hard. But I thought they fought so well yesterday, and there's really not much more. I don't know. There's not much. You have to give those players praise yesterday for the effort they put in the circumstances, and I thought we definitely deserved at least a draw. And I think the referee, and even aside from that handball, was pretty shambolic. Like, Joelinton here doesn't even get booked for that. Doesn't get booked. He doesn't get booked to about 15 minutes to go, I think, in the game. Dan Burn arguably should have been sent off as well for the foul and then the handball. Very lucky to stay on the pitch. And I don't usually do stuff like this, and I don't usually moan too much about refereeing, but it does feel as if like Newcastle are kind of refereed to a different standard in a way. Like they're physical and they're look. Any good team would do this, and any team with kind of a sense of game management and game set would do it. But they kind of tried to bully Spurs yesterday, and they got away with so much. Joelinton there, that is a yellow card. Obviously, Johnson picks up the second ball, but you are stopping a break. And if Joelinton gets sent off in the first half of the game. There was other fouls. There was the one where he completely took out Pedro Porro off the ball and it wasn't even given as a foul. Linesman would have seen it. Referee might not have, but they just let it go. But other players, it happened to other players. It happened to Livramento just before that, straight away, and he stops the game. Ridiculous. It was ridiculous. And Joelinton, I just feel like gets away with so much. I really admire him as a player. But how is that not a yellow? And then Johnson, who I thought had a good first half, and then second half, he just wasn't really what we needed. Does well here to take on Burn. Look, we're critical of him kind of being a bit more creative and, not one-dimensional in these kind of moments, but he does well here, and he sets up the cutback for Solanke via the deflection. And again, it's if that goes 2-1, I do want Solanke to kind of improve on his finishing in these moments, but it's a brilliant block from Dan Burn. Here is where another chance for Newcastle comes from. I like this. Look, got to talk about Brandon Austin. I thought he did so well yesterday. And what I did like about Spurs and what I've noticed in the last couple of games, and people will talk about Ange not changing, etc., we are kind of going a bit more direct into Dom, and that's something that I've spoken about a lot and had a bit of a frustration about. But he does lose that. He does lose that battle. They turn it over, and again, it's just one pass that kind of takes out that midfield, and Porro leaves the space again because again, his kind of instruction is when we want to play out. Like if we're trying to play through the press, we want him to get high up because he's a good ball carrier. But that leaves the space in behind. But it's a good save from Austin. This is where another chance comes from. Obviously, Spence gets done in behind here. I thought Spence was much better when he moved to right centre-back. And look, that's not the answer. Again, it's hard to go into that too much. But Dragusin, again, there, not really getting tight enough to Isak, should score that. This is where the second goal comes from. Solanke losing that duel again. And they're able to kind of move it out, find the spare man. Murphy, low ball across. And Dragusin, I just think, has to deal with that better. It's unlucky, but he just does have to deal with it. And look, he struggled, came off at half-time. Ange said he had nothing more to give. But yeah, it's obviously defensively, we don't really have that many issues with him. But even, again, yesterday, I thought he struggled. I did think he struggled. But again, him and Gray didn't train all week. They've been bedridden all week. So, to keep it at 2-1 against the Newcastle side with that attack, I thought they did really well. And obviously, Dragusin comes off at half-time. Second half, then, Spurs, I thought we played really well. And again, we've seen this kind of move so many times. This reminded me straight away of the Basuma goal against Everton, where Spurs were able to work it, win it back high up, work it really well quickly around the edge of the box. Sarr has that shot. Again, we've kind of encouraged players to take more shots from outside the box as a way of breaking down low blocks. Falls to Johnson, hits the post, such fine margins. Again, here, they're all sat in, very well organised, very hard to break down from the corner, something a bit more inventive, wanting to get on with the game. Maddison wraps that just wide of the post. Maddison, I thought, again, we'll talk about Bergvall now, because I thought Bergvall had a brilliant game. But I think the Maddison substitution needed to happen. And again, I think in an ideal world, I think most of us wanted to take Johnson off, move Kulusevski to the right, play Bergvall and Maddison together. And you saw Maddison when he was dropping deep, he was finding these balls. And Son here is able to kind of bring it down. Spurs are able to kind of get more bodies into the box. Obviously, Son, if it's a slightly better first touch here, he's in. But again, maybe he hasn't got the pace to get away from Livramento. So he actually does well to kind of slow things down, find Reguilon, good ball back. Solanke turns, holds it up. Kulusevski into Johnson here. And this was just like something off of FIFA, isn't it? You could argue that Johnson maybe needs to have a shot there. But again, if you put a low ball in with those many players in the box, it could be an own goal. You don't know what's going to happen. It comes to Reguilon. And again, I think he probably does the right thing by just trying to smash it across, because that could easily go in off Burn or Hall on the line. Ends up going out for a throw. And one thing I would say about keeping Johnson on is that having Kulusevski kind of as that right-hand-sided number 10, you're not going to get... we love Kulusevski coming into these kind of right sort of wing, right, number 8 kind of crossing positions. But I don't think he gets the space necessarily to do that if Johnson's not wide of him. And obviously Johnson's not there. But there are other instances where Kulusevski is able to get balls in, or Porro is able to get balls in from those kind of channels. They have better delivery than Johnson and more variety on the delivery, and that is something that we were crying out for. But they're able to do that because Johnson is kind of staying a bit wider and creating that space. This is a great ball in. Solanke gets across his man, header. And again, this is kind of what I'm talking about here. You see Johnson there holding the width, comes back in, then he kind of inverts. Porro is then able to get that cross, and Solanke, it's a good header. Just doesn't quite get enough purchase on it to kind of see it in, and then the game ends. Newcastle, look, I don't think Newcastle deserved to lose the game. I don't think Spurs necessarily did enough to win the game. But yeah, it's one of those ones where I think we were just a bit unlucky on the day, and with the effort that we kind of put in and the application, you can't give the players any more praise. And you kind of have to give the players a lot of praise. This was a very interesting start on Match of the Day yesterday. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Tottenham, after 20 Premier League games, same amount of goals scored, only one more goal conceded, but 15 points less. It's just bonkers, isn't it? And I made a TikTok about this, talking about it this morning, about why that is. Obviously, it's a more competitive league. It's, tactical deficiencies at times, yes. Injury crisis, obviously, not taking chances at times, yes, as well. Obviously, you'd say, well, we scored a lot of goals. I can't remember how many goals we scored. Well, if we look at the Premier League table, you'll see that obviously we're kind of right up there with the goals scored. Liverpool scored 45, Tottenham have scored 42, with the second top scorers in the league. So again, putting the ball in the back of the net doesn't seem like a problem, but in certain games it has. And that's where the kind of that nuance sometimes in the analysis that is lost about, like, Spurs are great going forward, but they can't defend. And look, we haven't been able to keep our centre-backs fit this season or last season, which is obviously a telling factor. The league has got more competitive, and there have been a lot. The league getting more competitive makes those fine margins even more fine. Yesterday, look, there's been a lot of valid criticism of Ange over the course of the last couple of months or so, and look, I don't know. I'm not as convinced about him necessarily as I was, but I loved how defiant he was yesterday. And after a game like yesterday, it's really hard to criticise him. I think it really is, and that's why I think he was so proud and valiant and so glowing in his praise of those players, because I don't think they could have done much more yesterday. And I do think it does give me confidence that he is so confident of this squad turning a corner. So we'll see if they do, and we'll kind of evaluate at the end of the season. I think the league season is maybe a bit of a write-off in kind of terms of the league finish necessarily for Europe. Obviously, we're 12th at the moment. We're 10 points off of 6th. We're 11 points off of Newcastle, 12 points off of Chelsea. It's hard. You never know. Spurs can go on a run, absolutely. But maybe a season without Europe, like it was last year, will do this squad good to kind of be able to continue to build it and continue to establish that style and philosophy. It's so tough at the moment. And yeah, it's really hard to analyse it properly. But hopefully, we can turn a corner. It's going to get tough. The run of games is tough. Need bodies through the door desperately to kind of give these players a bit of a break and give us something, a bit more variance in attack and defence, obviously, with the options. But I was proud of the players yesterday. They did well, and unlucky to come out on the losing side. But let me know what you think in the comments, and make sure to subscribe if you're new. We'll be back previewing the Liverpool game on Wednesday. And yeah, up the Spurs. Nice one.